Well, hi again. Welcome to my latest video. Well, in this one, I'm going to finally do a deep dive on the software for my 3D printer, the Bambu Studio software that came with it. Now, most of the projects that I've created were taken from on-site, different websites out there, in particular Maker, Slab site, and a couple of others, and I've downloaded them either in the newer 3D version extension or the STL extension. And then I've printed them, but in most cases, I not only just took them down and printed them, but I modified them in some way. Whether it's changing the size, changing how many I'm doing at one time, or slicing off or adding components to it. Now I'm going to go over that today by using only the primitives that come with the Bambu Studio software to create a reusable project. Right here behind me, my streaming and studio computer, it has a 3080 that's pretty heavy, and the gigabyte version of it, and it needs support, a SAG support. Now currently I have one in there that I bought, the stainless steel one that you can see right here. But I'm going to make one that's completely designed from scratch, that will fit this computer exactly the way I want it to fit. And it'll be white, so it'll mix right in with the rest of the color scheme that that system has, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the software, and then I'm going to start showing you the primitives and some of the basic functions that everybody should know in order to even use that software, even if you're starting with somebody else's design. Because you have to know how to set things up, maybe resize it, maybe put more than one duplicate, and several other key things that you're going to see me use as I create that particular SAG relief stand for that GPU in that computer. Okay, so I'm going to switch over now to a screen view of the Bambu Studio as we go through it step by step in creating that piece from scratch. Okay? At the end, I'm hoping I can be able to show you the finished version of it. So I'll do a quick little clip showing you what I produced after I print it. I may even, throw in a little clip of it printing, a sped up version of it that the printer itself can take since it has a built-in camera. But we'll see how it gets to when I get towards the end of this video. So hang on there, okay? Let's get started. Oh, one more thing I almost forgot before we get started. In addition to the printer, the software that came with it, and of course any filaments that I use in doing this project today, I also have a couple of tools that I purchased separately that didn't come with the printer. One is a stainless steel 12-inch ruler. Now it has both inches and it has millimeters, centimeters as well. And it starts at complete zero. That's important. You have to make sure that at one end it starts at the complete zero mark of the millimeters, and at the other end the complete zero mark of inches. Important for taking accurate measurements. But there are times when the ruler is not enough, so I also have a digital caliper. This thing probably, at the time when I bought it, cost about $25, and it's very accurate, and it could measure outside diameters and inside diameters as well. It has attachments for both, and it can measure length. That's in the back of it, okay? So it can do a lot of different measurements very accurately and display them in a digital display. So I'm going to put links for both of these things down in the notes for this video in case you're interested in getting them yourself. Okay, so let's get started again. I am now in Bambu Studio software, and this is a default configuration you get when you first bring it up. If you go into the Prepare button, you can also go into some of the other ones, like you want to see the device itself. You'd have to click on this little arrow down here, though, for it to actually show you a picture from the camera that's inside. In my case, the Bambu X1C printer. So anyway, back to Prepare. The colors that I have are the ones I normally use, the most of, which is black, white, red, and blue. Not trying to necessarily be patriotic, although I consider myself to be. It's just that those become the colors that are most frequently used. But I have a large assortment of colors that I change as needed depending on the project. So the first thing I like to do, let's refresh the mouse buttons. If you click on the right mouse button, it moves the entire plate around the screen. It starts off with just a single plate. If you click on the left mouse button, it changes the view of that plate. I like to keep them straight on initially, but then I change it around depending on what's going on. Then if you want it to grow, you use the little wheel, and you can bring it into whatever you want. So I like to try to get it, as straight as possible for the first time that I'm using it. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and start building this special little project from scratch. Again, I'm going to use the primitives. So if I go ahead, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. If I right click anywhere in the plate and that says add primitive, let me start off with a cylinder because I'm trying to make the base of the sag support first. So let's do a cylinder. Now by default, it comes in as the first color. In this case, I have black in slot number 1 over here, right? I like to change it to something that's a little easier to recognize. So I'm going to change it to, let's say, red. If you click on the object, like I have here, then you right click, it brings up a menu. And down at the bottom, it says change filament. And those are the choices based upon what you have loaded on your printer. So I'm going to say change this to red. So it's nice and easy to see. That way it's a nice middle color. White's a bit too bright. I don't see as much contrast as I like on it when I'm trying to do design. But red or blue or pink or whatever other colors, yellow, it would show quite well. Now by default, if you click on it and then you come up to the top here and you click on this one that looks like it says size, clicked on that, it opens up some various arrows. You can grab these arrows and stretch it to what you want, but I like to type things in. The default is 25.6 for all 3 dimensions of this cylinder. I am going to, though, turn off the uniform scale. If I do uniform scale, if I change one of these, right, and I'll show you. Let's say I change that to 20, and then I got to click on another one for it to take effect. They all become 20. If I turn off the uniform scale, then I can change this to the size I want, which is really going to be 30, 30, and 20. That's based upon my estimation of how thick I want the base to be for my particular computer. Now, I've already got 20 in the 3rd spot, but I want 30 and 30 for these. I have uniform scale off, so I'll change this. I just drag the mouse across it so it's hot, so that it knows I'm going to change the entire thing, and I'm going to change that to 30. And then I got to click on another one for that to take effect. But it only changed that one because it's not uniform scale. Now at this point, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag the mouse across, holding the left mouse button down, and I'm going to type in 30. So now this is the size that I want for my base, but I'm going to modify it. I'm not going to leave it like this in a plain form here. I'm going to make it look a little more presentable and modern. So in order to do that, I have to get a sphere. Oh, and by the way, what I like to do at this point is I like to immediately go over here to this one that says add plate, and I like to add a new plate. This is going to be this plate. It's going to be the one that I save all of my copies on. Actually, I can flip it. I'll leave the original objects on plate 1 because they are numbered here in green. And then I'm going to come over here to plate 2, which is a new one I added. I'm going to click the left mouse button, makes it the active one, the one that would print if I tried to print it. The printer can only print, at least my model, can only print 1 plate at a time. This is very good when you have a big project that has a lot of pieces to it. You're usually not going to be able to fit them all on 1 plate. It also helps if you have a limited number of colors available in your AMS, the automatic management system for the filaments that can have up to 4. This particular printer, you can put 4 of those, right? The Bambu X1C, you can put a total of 4 AMSs on it, each one having 4 colors. So you could have a total of 16 colors at one time available to you. But I only have the 1, so I only have 4 colors. So I'm going to, with this one highlighted, I'm going to right click over here. It highlights it, brings up the menu, and then I'm going to say clone. You can make as many clones as you want. They'll all appear on the main plate. I only need 1, so I'm going to say OK. That's the default. I'm going to say OK. Now I have the same thing on both plates. I'm going to leave this one alone. That way, if I mess this up in my active plate, I'm going to center that out. I always have that one to go to. That's a technique that I learned the hard way, believe me. So you want to have backups of all this stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this out of the way for a moment, because notice by default when you make a new primitive, it goes to the center. That's important. But if I move this object out of the way, I right click on it again, and I say center, it moves it to the center. Center is your friend when you're trying to use Bambu Studio to either create or modify models. But for now, I don't need it here. I need more pieces to do what I want to do. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. I'm just going to click on the background here to unhighlight it. Now, what I need next is a sphere. And this sphere is going to be a little bit bigger than this cylinder. But let's go back. Let me right click in the open area. I'm going to say add primitive. I want to add a sphere. And you'll see what I'm doing with it in a minute. Again, it added a sphere. I want to change its color. So I'm going to make this, let's say, blue. Right click on it, change filament color to blue. but it's the wrong size. I need something bigger than my base that I've created in the first step. So with it highlighted, I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to click on this scale button, S for scale, the third one in that center section. And I'm going to change this, let me see. I'm going to leave uniform scale on, and I'm going to make it all 50. So all I have to do is change one of them, and then I click on any other one, and now I have a 50 millimeter sphere in all directions. If I rotate around it, you'll see it's an actual sphere, right? I could even look at it from the bottom if I want. When you see the lines turn light like that and the thing turn gray, you're looking at under the bottom of the plate. But now we're looking at the top of the plate. Now let's see, if I right click on it, it's not centered, I'll center it. It was probably very close though, it's just if I even touch it sometimes, it moves out as the center. If I click on it again, center is no longer highlighted. I can't choose that, in other words. Oh, ignore this tower. I like to put it out of the way. We can talk about that later, but it has to do with multicolor 3D prints. It's a place for the printer to clean its head off from one color to the next. I won't go into that too much depth though at this point. So we got our 50 by 50 by 50 sphere. Now I need a clone of the cylinder. I need another one to work with. So I'm going to right click on it here, and I'm going to clone it. Only one copy do I need. I'll just drag this over here. Now, unfortunately, it's not the right size. I need a little bit larger cylinder to do what I want to do. So I'm going to go into this scale up here, and I'm going to make this one, let's say 45, 45. I'm going to do them individually, turn off uniform scale. I'm going to make it, let's say 45, 45, and let's make it 25. Doesn't have to be perfect here. I'm just guessing at this point. So now I have this. Now this sphere is already centered, right? I'm going to center this though. Click in the background, then click on this, right click on it and say center. Now at this point, what we have is the two objects mixed together. If I were to print it right now, it would print, but it wouldn't be solidly connected. And we'll talk later about solidly connecting them because they're not merged. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to actually do a subtraction. I want to actually subtract from the bottom cylinder the size of that sphere. I need to use an option called Boolean. It's actually referred to as mesh Boolean. But before I do that, I do have to merge these two pieces together. Otherwise, the mesh Boolean doesn't even appear up here. If I select it, you're not going to see it. Mesh Boolean is really not shown here. It's in here hiding. So what I'll do is I'll click on each object, and I have to hold the control between them. So I click on the bottom one, so I got the larger cylinder, and then I click over here by holding control. Now I have selected both of them. And now I'm going to right click the mouse button, and I'm going to say merge. Okay, now it didn't change it. However, now if I printed it, it would print very well. It would be fairly solid and still two colors, okay? Because it still will have a connection between them that is not as solid as you would want because it has to use two different colors to connect it. And that usually does not make for a solid connection. We'll talk about that later. But what I really want to do here, that's here nor there, I want to subtract the sphere from this larger cylinder. But before I do that, so I'm going to make the other plate the active plate, and then I'm going to do a right click on this in the inactive plate. So on this combined merged object, I'm going to do a right click, and I'm going to say clone it. And what does it do? It puts that entire cloned, merged item over here. Now I can always separate these if I wanted to. As long as I didn't make it permanent, which I'll show you later how to do that, you can always right click on it, and then there's a thing called split it to objects. If I click on that, it's basically unmerging it. But I don't want to do that for now. I want to leave them merged. If I need to split it, I can. Let me go back over here to my working one, center that a little bit. Now, if I click on this, get a better view, click on this. Now there's some new things that have popped up at the top on this merged object, including this one here. That's called mesh Boolean. On mesh Boolean, there's three major functions it could do. It could make a union. That means it makes it a permanent connection. But when it does that, it selects one of the colors and the whole thing is just one color. But then it's as if that's how it was made. When you print it, it'll be considered one solid piece, no matter what the individual shapes of the items were. I don't want to do the union. I could also do an intersection. The intersection will actually allow you to only have the intersection left. It'll delete the main two parts that were not part of the intersection. I don't need to do that for this project, but that is what it allows you to do. What I do want is subtraction. So it's going to subtract one item from the other. But I want to make sure the one that it subtracts, it uses as the model to subtract from, it's called the input. I want to make sure that gets deleted. I don't need it anymore. So with that done, I go ahead and it's asking me what section of it do I want to subtract from. That's the bottom section, right? That's the one that I want left in the end. So I can now click on just the bottom section. Notice that it has the whole thing highlighted, but it has a separate highlight on the bottom section. Now it's asking subtract with, and that's the top one. So now I left click on that. Notice it has highlighted it too with slightly different color highlights. And what's going to happen is the input, which is the ball, the sphere, the one with the green highlights, it will disappear, and all we're going to see is what it's subtracted from the bottom base. So let me go ahead and click on this button here, subtraction, and guess what we have? This is actually a hollow. If I zoom in, you'll see it's actually reverse sphere, impressed all the way down from the top to the bottom. So that's what I wanted. Now it stayed red. I'm going to change the color of that so I can see a little bit better. Let me change it to, so I right click, then I come to the bottom. I'm going to change that to white. Okay, so now we have them ready to work on each other some more. Let me move this out of the way. What I want to do before I do anything else, I want to save this because it took some effort to make this. I got plenty of room over in this other plate. So I'm going to make the other plate the active one, and then I'm going to right click on this one, and I'm going to say clone it again. That way, if I mess that up, I don't have to go ahead and rebuild it. It'll be over here, already done the way I want it. And if I want the two source pieces, I can basically split the original one that I saved over here, just in case I need it. Chances are I won't, but you never know. Let me go back to this. Now here, I want to basically flip this. So I want to flip this item here. If I click on it, and the flip, there's a couple of different ways of doing it, but I like one in particular. And that's this one here with the arrow turn. It's called rotate. When I click on that, it does 3 different slice views, right? It could just rotate it around in place. That's the blue. See, it's down at the lateral edge of that particular plate. We could flip it over this way, or I could flip it over that way. It could be either the green or the red would do the same thing. I'm just going to pick the green. So it's going to flip that way over, and you'll see what I mean. If I go ahead and I hover over these little arrows, notice that a scale pops up. So when I click down left mouse button on one of them, and I can rotate it, you see it rotating. But I want to stay in these center things that allow for 90 degree or 180 degree. That's 180, that's 225, that's 270. So I want to have it at 180. I want it flipped completely upside down. And if I let go, that's what happened. Now I just click with the left mouse button anywhere in the plate. But if I look at it, it's been completely flipped. See, from the bottom? So now we're going to do another mesh between these two objects. First, I got to center them. I'm going to center the base first, select it with the left, right click on it, and do a center. Over here, same thing. I'm going to center them both. So they'll be right on top of each other. There we go. Now notice that the original one is slightly smaller than the other one. I intentionally did that because I want to use this as a way to round off the top. That's the objective here. But before I can do that, I'm going to have to make a merge of these two because I'm going to do another Boolean between the two. But I'm going to do another step in between. Let me first select the center one. Try to make sure you don't click on it in a way that it will select the wrong one. So it's selected. Now I hold down the control, and now I click over here to select the other one. Now I do right click and I do a merge. Okay, so it is one piece, right? Whether it's centered or not for this step doesn't really matter because they're only going to move where I tell them to move. I'm going to move. I can still move the individual pieces, but in order to do that, I got to come all the way over to the left over here and click on. You see, it's on global right now. The process. I'm going to click on object, and now I have access to the individual pieces of every plate. Now I'm on plate 2, right? Just to show you that I am O2 in the right-hand corner here. You can zoom in though, and it shows you that an assembly color of red, which means if I were to do a merge. If I were to do a permanent merge of these two, right, which under the Boolean is called union, it would all turn red because that's the main color for the assembly. Even though the assembly is made up of 2 individual colors, it picks one, and it picked red. I know that already. But that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of that. But what I want to do, they are merged, but I can still move the individual objects. And what I want to do is move the white object the one that's the upside down sphere, I want to move it up. So I'm going to click on that, click on over here in this little scale here where the filament colors of each piece are. They're both called cylinders, but one is white, one is red. That's why you want different colors on them. Otherwise it's hard to tell. I'm going to click on that one. So I'm clicking on the white one. And because they're merged, I now have the ability to raise one object in a different position vertically than the other. So if I come over here, and this thing allows you to move any object in any direction, I'm going to click on that, and it gives you 3 arrows, right? It gives you a red one that's going in that direction. Let's say if I had it this way, it's going left, right, and it has a green one going up and down, and it has a blue one going straight up. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at a little more profile light, and I'm going to grab the tip of the arrow. You got to be very careful to grab the arrow. You see a number pops up like that, and I'm going to raise it up. Now, how high I raised it is really, not important. It's a matter of how much rounding I want to do. I stopped it now, and you can see it's going to round the top. If I wanted to round it a little bit more, I can just go ahead and grab that top arrow again. Let me get it out of the way of that, okay? I can grab it and bring it down more. You see, I'm really close to the top there, but I'm gonna pick, just guessing here, I'm gonna pick this. Now, if I made a mistake, no problem. After I do the boolean, I can do a Control Z and reverse it. But let me go ahead and do it and see if this is what I want. See, it stays. It stays because they're merged. They stay relative to each other, even if it's a vertical. It doesn't even have to be next to it. It could be raised in another part of the plate, believe it or not. It's an amazing power when you do that, to be able to have objects that are floating and put them vertically anywhere you want. You have to merge them first. So now we click on this combined one, and we go into the boolean again. And this time I still want to do subtraction, so I'll click subtraction. I still want to delete the input. The input's going to be the white on the top, right? Just change the view a little slightly here. So it says select from. I want to choose the bottom one. See the highlighting on the bottom one, which is a cylinder. And then it says select with, which is going to be the top one. It's waiting for me to just click on it, and it highlights it with the green. I want the input deleted. What's the input going to be? It's going to be that upside down sphere object, right? And then I say subtraction. And there we go. It rounded off the top. Now, if that's not what I wanted to do, I can now do Control Z, and it'll go back. Let me show you. Control Z. And now I'm back. And I can either get out of this, or I can move it around some more, or I can go ahead and select again and continue. I'm gonna actually make it just a little less. So I'm gonna hit escape to get out of it, the escape to go back to just that object. And I'm going to pick from here again, over in the left, plate 2, the cylinder that's white, out of this menu here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go up to here where I can move it in any direction, up at the top here, and I'm going to make it just a little bit higher. It's a little too low for me. Oops, I didn't click on it. That's one of the problems. You got to get it right with the number. That's it. See, I just went up just a little bit more, and that's what I want. So now I clicked on the plate. Now I click the whole thing, and I go into the boolean again. I want to again do a subtraction, and I do the same thing I just did earlier, where I'm going to subtract from the bottom one, but I'm going to subtract with the top one. It has delete input, which I want, which means the white is going to be deleted, and then I hit subtraction. And that's more like it. I wanted just a subtle little rounding to the top of it, to the top of the base. So with that, I now have pretty much the base created. Let me now go ahead and create the, what I'm calling the stem riser, the actual riser part that goes straight up. So with that, let me, what am I going to do here? I'm going to save this. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to do a save by doing a clone. Give me a clone one over here. So now I have the result also saved. Notice how I save every step. So if I mess up along the way, I have that to go back to without having to redo all the steps that I did. So we go back to this one. I'm going to just leave this on this plate for now, and I'm going to continue by making the riser. Let's get this set up, and let's get the riser. So for the riser, I'm going to do a rounded rectangle. I'm going to make it a rectangle for now, and you'll see how I modify that in a moment. So I'm going to do another primitive, add primitive. I'm going to do a cube, but I want a rounded cube, rounded rectangle that's hidden down here. And change the color again. I'm going to make this one, let's say, blue, just to be different, okay? And I'm going to change this, let me see, I'll make it, I know that I need it to be 79 high. The height of this is going to be how high I want the support to be underneath the GPU. I know that's 79, I measured it with the ruler, and it was actually easier in this case because I just pulled out the one that I have in there now, the support, the sag support, and I measured how high it was, and it's 79 millimeters. So let's go ahead into scale. I'll change that first, which is how tall it is. Uniform scale off. Let's make this exactly 79. I got to click on any one other one. I didn't change the other ones because not uniform scale. For the dimensions, however, I'm going to make it 20 square. Right now it's 25.6. I'm going to make it 20. That one 20, and then that one 20. So that's the size of the riser, but that's not how I want it. But I'm going to go ahead now, and guess what? I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to clone this. So I have a copy of it in case I mess up. And I'll just leave that hanging out there in case I need it. Come back over here. Now I want to make it so that it follows the curve of the fan. The fans are going to be on the bottom of this. They are 90 millimeters in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cylinder that's 90 in diameter in all directions, but I want that to be slightly higher. So I guess I'll make it like 82. So let's add another primitive, in this case a cylinder. Let me make that white. Right click and then come over here and then white. I'm going to change its, let me move this a little bit farther out of the way. Let's change its scale, not uniform. We're going to make it 90, 90, and this will be, let's say, 82, just slightly higher, so I can see it. That's important to be able to see it, so that when I put this, let me click in this area here. If in doubt, hit escape. Click on it, make sure it's centered. It's not centered, slightly off again. But guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this guy not centered, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to just cross it over into the other part. You can see it better like this. You see what I'm doing? I'm going to reshape it so that it is slightly adjusted for the 90 millimeter fan. In fact, let me just rotate this around completely so that's on the bottom. It might be easier that way. Might be able to see it better. There we go. So it's really how much of the blue do I want to take off? Matter of fact, blue may not be a good color for this. Let me change this to red. I'm having trouble seeing it. There we go. It's a little bit better with red. And I'm just going to move this around until I sliced off the right percentage of that. So that's the way it's going to look, all the way from the top to the bottom. Once I subtract the white cylinder from this rounded rectangle, you see what I'm doing? I'm sort of removing a big chunk of it. So with that, I'm going to do a merge mesh, like I've been doing several times already today. So first we got to merge it. Click on this one, and then click on this one, holding down the control, and then clicking right-click mouse and do a merge. They are merged. So now them being merged, guess what I can do? I can click on the whole thing again. I can come up to mesh boolean. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to have delete input. I am subtracting from the red, right? Click on that. I'm subtracting with the white. Click on that. So now the one that's in the green borders is going to subtract from the one in white borders once we hit subtraction. And there we are. Okay. I'm going to change this color again, probably to white, so it's easier to see. But let me save it. Come over here, right click over here, say clone, say okay. So I got a saving of that now. All these little pieces are being saved. Come back over here and I can continue working on this. So now I want to put these two together. So let me do this one and say center. I want to do this one and say center, but they may not be exactly right because it's an oddball shape. So I'm going to do center on that. And then this is what it's going to look like. Once it's done, it's going to be like this. Now I could just finish it just like this and it would probably work fine. I'm going to make it one color, of course. So I'm going to merge these two together. They're actually going to be permanently blended together. So I can go ahead and see, does this look good enough? Yeah, it looks good enough. It's pretty centered in the, as a almost triangle in there with a little bit of a bend to it. So with that, let me show you what happens when we do. Click on this. Did it come out of center? It might have come out of center. I got to center it again. Click on this, then click Control and click on this. I'm going to use Mesh Boolean again after I merge them. Right click and merge them. It's one piece, two colors still. But now when I go to Mesh Boolean, I'm going to do something totally different. Any guess what color it's going to be? You get a hint by looking over here. It should be red. The version of Bambu Studio I'm using is the one that just got released this week that I'm doing this, 2.2.2.56. They come up with a new one at least every month, a new, at least smallest point change with little corrections to it. But sometimes they make a major change and function names change and everything else, so be aware of that. So let me click on this. Now I see Mesh Boolean again, but this time I'm going to leave it on union. So it doesn't matter which parts I select, it's going to union those parts together. So click on the bottom one, that's part one, click on the top one, that's part two, and I'm going to do a union. And it came out red, just like I said, since that was the main color over here on the left. So now it's one assembly. It no longer has parts. I can no longer derive parts from that. I can slice it and use other pieces, but it will never be the same. That's why I saved the component parts on the other plate. So there's a method to my madness, right? Now I can center this whole thing. Now again, I could just print this out. I'll probably print it in black though. I'm sorry, in white. And I could use it. However, I want to do one more thing. I have these little magnets. I'll try to show it on the screen here in the corner that I purchased. And they happen to be little cylinders that are only 5 millimeters tall. And the whole disc, it's like a disc, is 18 millimeters in diameter. So what I need to do is I need to create something I haven't shown yet. I'm going to make a negative part. And the easiest way to do that is to go ahead and say, click on this, then right click and say over here, add negative part. And this is going to be a cylinder. Add negative part, cylinder. Notice it's in this funny color. It's sort of like transparent black. You can't change that color. You have to deal with it as that. Wherever you put this in the object, it's going to create a void, okay? But I want the void to be of a certain size. So I'm going to obviously go into scale, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than the 8 millimeters. I'm going to make it, let's see. Matter of fact, let me double check to make sure it is 8 with my caliper. No, it's 18, I'm sorry. It's 18, not 8, right? So it's really 18 by 5. Okay, that's important. So it's a good thing I double checked that. What did I make it? Well, I didn't change it yet. So let's do 18, but I don't want to do it just 18. It'll be too tight of a fit because I have to put this in during the print. I'm going to pause it, and you could get the printer to automatically pause at the right spot. I'll show you that next. But I have to be able to pause it, so I'm going to make it 18.4. Okay, 18.4, 18.4, and then it's got to be 5 tall. But I'm going to make it, let's say 5.3, just to give it a little extra room. That way, if you want to add glue in there, because you don't want it bouncing around and making noise, which is what I will do, you want it to stay in place. And I got to show you something else because I know I'm going to be adding glue. But look what we got now. We got this sort of elevated little shadow disc. Well, I can go ahead and put that centered, right? So I'll right click on it. I'll center it. Look where it's at. They put it right in there toward the top. That's too high. But it looks like it is centered, doesn't it? Right? If I look at it straight down from the top, it looks pretty much centered. So what I'll do is I have to move that down. Now, how do I get to it? It's inside this object. You know, I could have guessed about it before I centered it, but over to the left again, we see something that has no color to it. You can select the objects here. So that selects the entire thing. If you select this one that says generic cylinder, where there's a black, it's actually no color, it highlights it. I can come up here to the all direction thing, and guess what I see? I see that little up arrow there, and I grab it and I bring it down. You want to try to make it no more than about 1 millimeter off the bottom. It's hard to do. You may have to do it more than once. But again, we can always do Control Z and get back to this point, or just pick it again and move it around. Now, how do I know it's at the point that I want? Well, now I got to use a different function of this software. Let me get out of this. It's now inside there, right? It's still highlighted. It disappears when I hit escape, but it's in there. Now, the way I know it's in there, if I come up here all the way to the right where it says slice plate, I'll slice it. Now it actually moved over to preview. It's no longer in prepare over here at the top left. It's now in preview. I can go back to prepare and change whatever I want, but let's leave it in preview. That's where it goes after you slice it. Now, how do I know it's in the right place? Let me zoom in a little bit. It's showing the actual ridges of where the 3D printer is creating it. But I'm not going to get into that level of detail at this point, other than to grab all the way on the right-hand side. You see, there's 395 layers to it, a total of 79 millimeters. But I can grab this little plus sign right here and I can pull it down. Look what's happening. It's leaving a shadow of red to indicate what it is. But all the way down, now you see it's all one piece. You see how it's sort of blended together because we merged it? But if we keep going down, let me come up a little bit, grab it again. We keep going down, what happened? Oh, we hit a little pocket here. There's a top to it, and then there's a little pocket. And it goes all the way down. And if I go all the way down to the bottom, I see the bottom layers to it. I want to see at least 3 layers before it starts building. And I think I got it like exactly right. 1, 2, 3 layers before it actually starts building the little cup in the middle. So I think we're at the exact right spot for that. I think we lucked out. If not, I would have had to go back to the prepare and move it either up or down to get it right. You don't want to be too far down because it'll make it very weak at the bottom and it could break out. Because it is magnetic after all. You connect it to another magnet, it might pull it out. But this looks like it's good enough. Now the only problem is I now know I'm going to put glue in here. So what am I going to do to ensure that that's not a problem? Let me come back to prepare. It's still there. It didn't change anything. If I make any changes, though, then it's going to have to be sliced again. But I want to put a tube right down the middle, a little opening all the way from the top, all the way to the cavity in the middle where the magnet's going. That's just to let the glue fumes escape as it dries. That's all it is. If I wasn't going to put glue in there, I wouldn't have needed that. But I know I will be putting glue. Very easy to make. All I have to do at this point is create a duct. I'm going to pick a 3 millimeter duct. So we again go click on here. I'm going to do another right click and say add negative part. And it'll be a cylinder. A negative cylinder again. There it is. Now all the way on the left, you actually see both of these generic cylinders. One is this new one I created, The other one is the one that I previously put in the middle. So I can select either one of those and play with it. So let me go ahead now that that's selected, and let's change its dimensions. I want it to be 3 by 3 in diameter. 3. You could do 2.5 too if you want a smaller hole. I'm going to pick 3. Doesn't matter. And I'm going to have to make it so that it's, let's say, 80 high. Okay, at least. So I'm going to say 80 high. Now let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go all the way down to the base. I don't want to make a hole in the bottom. First of all, the glue would drip out through there. Okay, that's the first problem. And second of all, it'll weaken the bottom potentially. So here's my little stick. But what I want to do is I want to place it very carefully in the middle. So I'm going to center it. That's easy to do, right? But I'm going to raise it. So I'm going to go the old directions again. I'm going to pick the vertical direction right here, and I'm going to raise it up. And I'm going to raise it up. Oops, I clicked on it wrong. Let me select it again. That's why you always got to be careful to catch the little arrows right at the tip. It's very difficult sometimes. You got to see the number. And I did it wrong again. Let's select it again. Let's click on this little arrow. I might have messed it up. Let me center this again. It may not be centered anymore. Very touchy. I'm going to pick that one again. I'm going to pick it to go in all directions, and I'm going to be very careful to catch the tip of the arrow where the number shows. Left click it, and then I can drag it up. And what I'm looking for is it to pierce the top a little bit, not too much. Now it should be in that opening, but not all the way down. And we'll double check that by doing another merge. We could actually, it looks pretty low, so we could probably come up a little bit. Let me come up a little bit more if I can. Grab that little blue one, bring it up a little bit more like that. But it's also not off to the center that I want it. So let me rotate around here, get like this, and I want to move the other directions too. So it's not just the movement of the vertical. I want to move the other directions as well. So let me get it so I can see it properly. Right there looks pretty good. So as I move it this way, I'll grab the red. I'll move it this way, and I'll grab the green. And I missed it. I grab the green. I'll move it right over to this area here. Now, believe it or not, that will add strength to it as well, because it creates more walls around that opening. And we'll see only the hole at the top. We do not see the hole at the bottom. It will not pop out, but we'll double check that now. How do we double check that? Let's get out of this, hit escape, and then we're going to do a slice plate. So if I move the slices up all the way to the right hand, it's on layer 1. Layer 3 still doesn't have a hole, and it starts right there. It's actually starting at like layer 3, and then we're going up. And then when we see the very top, the thing that covers it, right? See what I'm talking about? The very top. You see now the hole goes all the way up and leaves at the top. Again, the reason I did this is I know I'm using glue, and if I don't like the hole at the top later, I can fill that in with just about anything. But I wanted to be able to have a way for the fumes to escape as the glue dries, and therefore it will not have any liquid locked in place. Otherwise, if you didn't have that and you put a glue that takes more than like 2 minutes to dry, like some super glues will dry quick. Chances are it'll be dry before you even start the printer again. That's fine, but I'm not going to use super glue. I'm going to use a different kind of glue that I know takes about 24 hours to dry. So with that, we're done. Now, if you're all said and done, always make sure you save it. I should have been saving it along the way. I'm going to do a save, and I get to pick what I want to call it. So these are the other projects I have that I have saved. Okay, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it GPU-SAG. And I'll give it a number. Let's call it SAG1. GPU-SAG1. Okay, did I do GPU or did GPU SAG1? And I'm going to say save. That way I can always bring it back and print it again. I could even adjust it. Not too much. I can't break the two main parts of it, but I can play with the voids. I can play with the negative parts if I wanted to. They're still available to me. Okay, so now let me go ahead and I'm going to do a print of it, and I'll show you the video that the printer takes of it printing, and I'll try to show you the final. Okay, here's the finished product. You can actually see the little hole for the vent so the glue can dry properly. And you can slightly see the magnet down in there. It's like 3 layers deep, but look, put a paper clip on the table, picks it right up. All right, so we know it's magnetic. Okay, the last step we'll have to do is put it inside the computer and make sure it works fine. But it's all done. Thanks for watching.